You are listening to That's Not the Finish podcast, a no-holds-barred pro wrestling podcast perfect for getting your wrestling fix. Now get ready to call for the 3 count. 1, 2, 3. And try not to get DQ'd. Because here are your hosts.
Welcome to another episode of the That's Not the Finish podcast. So right here, it's me and Dom again, but we actually got somebody who you probably have not heard from in a little bit. Moses, say hi.
Hey. I'm not Brad Maddox. I'm not hiding in a cave now, so, you know.
Yeah, Moses doesn't hide, by the way. He will come back for you.
I always come back.
Exactly.
It's like a retired wrestler's fault, you know. Like they say they're done. They're done with wrestling, and then they come back. Ric Flair,
Undertaker, Sting,
Goldberg.
Well, Sting. I think he's done for good.
I hope so. I really hope
well,
so.
I mean, I think his neck's telling him he's done.
I mean,
so
Seth Rollins said he's done good for good. So
Edge did a spear.
Well, I mean, Seth Rollins is the reason why, you know, according to Bret Hart. So
Thank you,
with
Bret.
that.
All right. So anyway, I've been enjoying AEW lately. To be honest, I know like there's been some debate over it. Some people are like this sucks, and then some people are like, oh, this is this is pretty good. I think honestly it's on par with NXT. Dom, I think that you still think that like NXT is a bit better than AEW.
In certain terms, NXT has been better, and in other terms, AEW has been better. It's a back and forth battle, and I mean, it's gonna take some time for us to really figure out who's on top here. But I think it's still early.
It's also, it also depends on what you're looking at. You know, as in terms of, if you're looking from a wrestling perspective, or you're looking from a production perspective,
exactly. There's many factors that play into it.
Right.
So, like, production-wise, do you feel that NXT is like winning that bout?
Sorry.
What was that laugh about, Moses? You
want to share? Sure. All right. So the first week of, and God bless them. You know, they're trying, but the first episode of AEW their production value was abysmal, and they were taking reaction shots. Now before anybody gets mad and says, "Man, you don't know, you never done that." Actually, I've done that. I do that for a living. So by the way, if anyone from AEW hears this, I am a freelance worker, so if you want to hire me, don't mind at all. But the production value of it was abysmal in my eyes because they were taking reaction shots. I don't know if they were trying to be a little, I guess, out of the box, you should say. But when you're doing a television show, specifically sports, you don't want to miss something big for a reaction, right? You know, you want to see that big result before, and then the reaction follows. You know, for example, game, thank God, 6 of the ALCS ended last night, right? And when Jose Altuve hit a home run, you want to see a reaction of the fans after he hits the home run. You don't want to see the reaction of the fans before he hits the home run because they're not going to react to anything. That's why it's called a reaction shot. And the thing is with AEW, they did that a few times where it was a false. It was pretty much I want to say a false finish, but it was it was a close. It was a what's the word I'm looking for? It was pretty much close count. You know what I mean? And it was, I guess, more or less, it was a false finish. But, the ref's going 1, 2, and he's coming down for 3, but then you take to Mark, in the bleacher seats, and he's just sitting there staring at the match, and he's not reacting. And then when it goes down and it's a near fall, then he reacts, and you're holding on to that shot for 3 to 5 seconds. You don't hold on to a shot. I mean, you're holding on to that shot longer than 3 to 5 seconds. And in the TV world, and Dom can back this up with me, is that in television production, you want to have a shot that lasts about 3 to 5 seconds long. Anything else is just too long. You're holding on to a shot, and they were holding on to a reaction shot. They should have gone from near fall to reaction back to match, when it was just pin, reaction shot. You hear the reaction of the near fall, and then they take back to the match where the person already kicked out. So NXT has them on that end, on production from what I've seen, but they have been progressing. They progressed tremendously last week, from what I saw, because again, I didn't get to watch a couple of weeks ago, but I got to watch last week, and they look a lot better than what they did, first day. And that's kind of, you kind of give them a pass on that, because it was their first television production. So you got those first day jitters, I guess you could say. But that's what I was laughing about.
I mean, I agree with that. In that sense, yeah, their TV production wise, they have been making a lot of mistakes, and like they're cutting away from things too early, or they're missing certain things. But then you have the other side, like of the production aspect, which is their set and their promos and their other things like that, and they're still like nailing that stuff. So like, again, there's so many different factors that come into play with this, because like you look at AEW's set compared to the NXT set, and it's like a completely different ballgame. You look at the arena, like just the arena itself. AEW is nailing it. They're selling out these huge arenas every time, and then you have Full Sail, the 500 people, same people every week.
Right.
I mean, that's not helping.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, and regarding like the production that Moses was going into before, I know like with WWE, NXT and stuff, they do like little shots up like of the crowd and everything. But is it just me, or does AEW just do it so much? But not that it's a bad thing, but a lot of the crowd in AEW has like the most priceless reactions that I've ever seen. Like they're like, "Oh my god," type of look. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
You want those reactions, but the problem is, like, there's nothing wrong with going to a reaction shot all the time, especially when it matters the most. It's just they're going too early. It's essentially like, oh, I'm on E, so let me drive to work and then go to the gas station. As to, oh, I'm on E, let me go to the gas station first and then go where I need to go.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I remember some of those matches, there was like 3 reaction shots like during it, like really, really fast. And I was just like sitting there watching this, and I'm like, this just feels like really awkward, because it's like, oh, person, match, person. Oh, wow, okay. That was really, really fast. But I mean, it's it's great, like what you said. It just, I feel too early, and like sometimes at times like just maybe like a little bit too many of them. But I feel like this past week with AEW, it was a little bit better. I feel like they're starting to learn, and like what you said before, since they are new, they are kind of adjusting and learning stuff, and just kind of getting better as they go on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like kind of what was discussed before here was, like AEW beat NXT apparently 2 weeks in a row regarding viewers, but then like I also heard that in return WCW actually beat WWF back like a long time ago for like over 80 weeks in a row or something like that. 84 weeks in a row, and that's just crazy. I mean, but like, where's it WCW now?
The problem is with that is that WCW, WCW is essentially what WWE is now. WCW was the older, WCW was the older wrestling company because they were NWA at one point, and they were the longer standing wrestling company, whereas WWF was just a collection of all territories that Vince McMahon Jr. bought and made his own. But that's why they were like, they were more of WWF was AEW back during the Attitude Era. And it's essentially the same way. The only problem is that WCW, they were stupid and they let people in suits run a wrestling promotion and try to go into competition, whereas AEW is not trying to go into competition. They're more or less just like
run the company either. They're letting the people that know how to run the business run the business.
Exactly. So it's not like that WCW's WCW, like they I mean, how many times does WWE go over like, oh, this was the death of WCW, this is what WCW did wrong. It was a culmination of everything.
Basically kicking a dead horse.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, yeah, look what we keep doing to you guys. Like, remember this? Remember this?
You remember when they brought back ECW just to basically like kind of piss on its dead corpse?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, when they first brought it back, it was like, okay, here's the ECW originals. Now we're just gonna fill up this show with a bunch of people that you just don't want to see.
Right.
That was man. WWE just likes to like piss on those two companies.
Well, I mean, they kind of beat them, so it's like,
Let's just rub our junk in their faces.
Yeah, they're definitely trolling them. So
yeah, but like, how have you been enjoying like the matchup so far in AEW, like regarding like the talent that they have?
Dime, you want? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll cover this one for now first. I mean, they've been having some great matches all like on their show. The main issue I'm having right now is it's only 3 weeks now, so like it's still early, but I think like they're gonna need to expand their roster a little bit right now. Like right now, we're only seeing from the same few people here and there.
And like, don't they have a lot more talent than like they've actually been showing? Because like for the past few weeks, they've like been trickling in some new talent, but we haven't like really seen like the amount of talent that they actually have on the roster. I feel.
Yeah, they announced like quite a few people already. Like originally when they had their press conference, and then when they had like throughout their signings and stuff. So like we know that they have people, but they're not really showing them. They're just sticking with the same like 4 storylines that's going on. And I get it. It's hard when you have only a 2-hour show once every week. It's kind of hard to fill in all that stuff, and it's the same issue that we have with SmackDown. There's only so much you can do. 3 hours is too much for a show. I agree with that.
Yeah, you don't want to become like Raw. Definitely don't
2
want
hours,
to become like Raw.
So you're dealt with such a limited amount of time to fit all those people in. It's a tough situation.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like from what I've seen, it's been the same guys, starting, same guys ending. You have the roster. You have it. You just, you just gotta, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to just like find a way to get these guys, and I know they're doing their best. Like, again, this is Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks' first crack at running a promotion. Usually they're just a talent, and the talent just worries about the match, whereas the person booking the show, they have to worry about who's going to get paid, how much they're going to get paid, the licensing to the arena, and like all these other things. And so, I think in time, I think they're just going through some growing pains, and like over time, we'll start seeing what we'll start seeing the true AEW.
Yeah, I mean, so
makes
far, I will be honest with you, though, I've been enjoying the hell out of Darby Allin. The guy is just, like, freaking crazy. Like, the last match that he was in, though, with Jericho, when he had, like, his hands hog-tied behind his back and he was just, like, doing flips and stuff, like, basically no hands, no arms at all, that was pretty crazy. I was hoping for him to at least do like something like really off the top, just like what he did like with Cody, like where he completely missed that coffin drop off of the top turnbuckle and like smashed his spine against the like the outside of the ring. But I mean, regardless, though, it was a great show. I'm hoping to see like a lot. I think he's gonna do like some really crazy stuff. Jimmy Havoc too. Jimmy Havoc is like a completely like demon of a guy. And then like you have even like the women's matches I feel were pretty good too. Britt Baker is really is pretty talented too. Rio is really funny to watch. And I mean like I've honestly just like enjoyed like every single match. Like I'm really like actually like, excited for Wednesdays to actually turn it on because I want to see like who's actually it's like new too. So I'm excited to see like who they're going to be pushing. And when they had like Jungle Boy and Marco basically going against the Lucha Bros. Like that was insane. Like the tag teams too are really they have like a really great tag team scene too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, last week's episode, I honestly think that was it Io Shirai her name, right? Or is that
That's
the one that
NXT?
Oh, that's NXT.
You're thinking of Riho, probably.
Rio, yes.
Yeah, Rio.
Yes, Rio. The match between Rio and Britt Baker last week was absolutely like that. That's a story. That's a story. That's how you tell a story. Even last week with Nyla Rose, that's a story. And I remember. Hopefully, my boss doesn't listen to this, but I had it on last week a couple of weeks ago when I was working for the first when I was watching the first episode, and somebody pulled over to me and they were like, "Oh, like this is cool, like this is coming from a non-wrestling fan," and what brought him in was, fortunately, it was the women that brought him in, but then once they started the story behind it, it's like, all right, Rio is this small, petite wrestler, and she's going up against this, behemoth of a woman, and it's your David versus Goliath type of scenario. And then last week, same thing. We were watching it, and they were like, "Oh, whatever happened to that girl that was champion?" I said, "Oh, she's still champion." We tuned in and we saw the match with Britt Baker, and we're like, "Oh my god! Like this is amazing! This is awesome!" And that's not discrediting anyone else from the card, because we'll sit here and talk, and I'll complain about WWE's pay-per-view, and mind you, I don't even want to talk about Hell in a Cell. But, we, again, like you said, Dan, it's new. So it has that honeymoon, newlywed phase where, they can do no wrong. But just, it's refreshing to see a match actually have a match and not it be, one thing I love about AEW is that once the intro's done, it's not, all right, we're going to get 20 minutes of a Chris Jericho promo or 20 minutes of, John Moxley promo. It's okay. If John Moxley and Kenny Omega are going to go at it, they're going to go at it. The bell rings, first person's coming up, the entrance music hits, and, match one's underway.
Yeah, totally.
It's wrestling.
That's actually
it's not
exactly what I was also just thinking too, is it's a lot less talking. It's a lot less talking to some extent too. I mean, when it's needed, they will do a promo. They will they will have some sort of talk. But in WWE, there was just they have talking, they have the Kevin Owens show. They have 5 different freaking talk shows now, and they start off every single episode with just talking. Where now it's just going into the actual match. But on top of that too, I also kind of like that, they're trying to keep the actual episodes somewhat like, not as bloody or, like you doing too much crazy stuff, but they tease. It seems like they're starting to like tease something that can potentially happen at the pay-per-view. So like right now you have Kenny Omega and with John Moxley and mixed up with like a little bit of Pac in there. But like Kenny Omega took out the barbed wire wrapped bat and also the broom and. The barbed wire wrap broom and bat, and right now it's like they're coming this close to actually using it on each other, but then there's always something that's kind of getting in the way of them actually doing it. So I feel they're saying like we can't do this right now on public TV, but wait until you watch the pay-per-view because you might actually see them actually use those weapons against each other. So I kind of like what they're doing with that. It's trying to like foreshadow what's going to happen.
It's also just good building, like good story building as well. It's you see them going close to getting at it, and then well, not yet. Let's hold it off, and it makes you really want to see that even more.
Yeah, exactly. Like how many times have we seen Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, or John Cena versus Randy Orton? And, this goes back to, like, the first episode, I believe it was, or maybe it was the Ariel Helwani rant that I went on, but it was one of those two episodes. And, I remember us saying, like, you can't have the same match. Like, you can't go into a match, you're building it like a high-end angle. It's going to be these two great guys. It's like, a build like CM Punk versus, I don't know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Everybody wants to see that. Everyone wanted to see that match, between them. And, you drop the seeds, and that's how you build. That's how you get a tease. It's not like Star Wars where it's like, the Rise of Skywalker is coming on December, but let's just pack the entire movie in this one trailer. So you don't have to worry about it, and that's the problem with WWE is that like when they build something, it's like, okay, they're building Rusev versus Bobby Lashley. Okay, they're gonna have a match next week, a 1-on-1. So what are you building towards? What what if you're already gonna present the match? What's the point in teasing it? Whereas AEW, like Dom said, they're just what you guys said, it's a tease. It's like, oh man, like they really want to bash each other's brains in, but they're not going to. I have to buy the pay-per-view to watch that. It's a smart build. And WWE, they haven't done it in years. And when they do occasionally do it, it's beautiful. But when's the last time they actually did a build like that? Probably Daniel Bryan's push, his first push.
Yeah, I mean, and when they do try to do a build, it's like, it's peaking, it's getting there, and then all of a sudden, just like the stock market, it just like does like a really sharp decline. So, it's basically WWE build up right now. It's like, oh, and like another one too, Moses, was like with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. It was a pretty good build up, and then all of a sudden it was just like, and then
talk about like the most underwhelming matchup.
Seriously.
And everybody was so excited because of like what they had in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They were like, "Oh, this is going to be awesome," and then it was like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, like if you're a real wrestling fan, you would have gone crazy seeing those two go at it. I remember in their group chat, one of the guys was like, Cam was like freaking out, like, "Oh my God, if you guys ever watch NJPW, watch it because this match is gonna be everything. This is the match to end all matches." And then we watch WrestleMania. It's like, well, it's not like Wrestle Kingdom 10. It's essentially like going to a job, getting promised a raise, and then they're like, you know what? We're actually gonna give you a demotion. All the hard work you've been doing, we're going to drop your pay.
Yep.
That's the issue that WWE's been making with a lot of their like new signees, I guess you'd call it, but this has been going on for a while now. Like, you have all these great talent that you're excited to see with all these new matchups and all these new things, and then they just don't let them have their moment. Like, it's just like annoying to see people like that you're excited to see, like an AJ Styles. You want to see him have some great matches that you've never seen him have in his career before, and then when you get the matchup, it's like, that's it. That's what we get. Like, it's a shame that WWE is not allowing their talent to stand out in the way that they should be standing out.
And that's just what I feel with AEW. They just kind of give their talent. They give them the ability to really be expressive. And yeah, I know that like Jericho, is in with the company and everything like that. But like they had him doing like that silly little like, oh, you just made the list thing, and they had him like kind of holding back more. But here he could literally just go out into the ring and literally just say like, oh, We the People was a shit idea and it's dead and buried right now. And he could literally say like, oh, Young Bucks, LAX is going to kick your ass. Like, he can literally just beat Jericho in the ring.
Well, I mean, that whole thing that Jericho, the thing is with Jericho is that you give him anything, he's going to run with it. You know what I mean? He's just like Cody Rhodes. Like Cody Rhodes was given this. I think with Jericho, he's constantly, and this is why he's one of, I will argue anyone every single day, and this is coming from someone that's a huge Shawn Michaels mark. I really think that Jericho is the greatest of all time, because from WCW, even Japan, his first go around, he was able to evolve. Like WCW, a lot of people remember him for the Man of 1,000 submissions, when he came out with a piece of paper and said all the not submissions, sorry, arm bars that he could do. And he comes out and he actually starts naming all these, holds. And it's like, only a creative mind could do that. And, Chris Jericho is one to be given, he's one to be given that type of flexibility. I mean, maybe, he was held back to some extent, but, they give him, I think, a little more leeway because they can trust him. Whereas, like, someone that's like Becky Lynch, Becky Lynch, look, now she's becoming who she really is because they're allowing her to talk. But, Chris Jericho is just constantly just evolving into something great, and he makes whatever, whatever bad idea you may have, he'll just turn it and make it gold, and that's same thing with Cody. Cody was given Stardust, like I said before, and that was like the dumbest gimmick ever. And he made it so entertaining to watch. And we finally got to see that match, of Cody versus Goldust. And, it was what WWE should have done a while back ago. Unfortunately, we just had to see it, years later with AEW.
Well, it was actually Cody versus Dustin Rhodes, but I mean, regardless, though, it was
same thing.
Yeah, but
they did do Goldust versus Stardust as well, and that was underwhelming for what it should have been.
Yeah, but Cody versus Dustin was Dustin had this like kind of different personality, more like colder, more like I guess more of like a more brutal in a sense. But he kind of ditched Goldust now. And, it was, like brother versus brother. But then the speech that Cody made after that match was what really got me, where he said, like, I need my older brother. And then they both, like, just shook. And then they went up against the, Young Bucks. They teamed up against the Young Bucks at the next pay-per-view. That was what I felt like really made that match.
Right. And the funny thing about that is that speech was actually something that his father had given years ago. I forgot who it was, but it's like literally word for word what his father said. Obviously, we're completely different, words as
like context.
Right. But it was the same thing.
Yeah, no, it was a beautiful speech. It was really, really great. And the fact that actually what you said about him using that from his father. Some people would be like, it's copying or something like that. But I mean, no, I mean, like, he's using influence from his father to convey the message in the ring right there. Yeah, I mean, like, I think, right now, like, AEW definitely had some, like, some hard starts and stuff, some bumps in the road, but I think that they are, getting along pretty easily. And I know, like, there's people out there that are like, oh, AEW is better, oh, NXT is better, WWE is still king. I mean, I'm trying to, like, watch both. Like, when I'm watching AEW, I am still going back to NXT and checking it out. I don't think, like, one is necessarily better than the other, even though, like, they both have, like, stuff to work on, but I still just want to check out both of them. Like, I don't want to just say, oh, one's better than the other, like how some people are trying to be like.
Yeah, I don't understand, like, how, like, why wrestling fans are so, like, closed-minded in terms of looking at other content. It's like, these are both great wrestling shows. You can still enjoy NXT while watching AEW. Like, it's not going to hurt you if you watch a different company. But, like, there's so many people out there like, I can't watch AEW because it's not made by WWE. I can only watch WWE programming.
And Dom, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Wrestling Twitter has really made me into a stronger person. But anyway, go on.
But, yeah, I mean, like, I don't understand. There's so many people that are looking to see one company fail over the other. And it's like, why can't we just be happy for each company doing their own thing? Like, competition is good. Competition helps give us better products and better stuff. And there's people that are just hoping AEW will fail just to laugh at it and say, you can't do anything. It's like, how is that helping anything? I just don't understand, like, people's logic and not wanting to see other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just they, like you said, it's just closed-mindedness, and, like, they can't be happy for, like, two corporations to have success. Like, this, we should be selfish. You know what I mean? Like, we should be selfish. We have, this is probably the best time ever for a wrestling fan. You have Monday Night Raw, Mondays, SmackDowns, Fridays. You have, I almost said Tuesdays, but
Impact is moving to Tuesdays again, so you'll have Impact on Tuesdays, and they're going to Access, so they'll have more viewership again. Right.
So then, all right, Impact Tuesday. Then Wednesday, you have AEW NXT. Thursday, well, whatever. You probably have some indie thing, or maybe not indie thing, but you got Thursday Night Football, whatever. Friday, you have SmackDown. Saturday, depending on the day, the Saturday of the month, you have NXT TakeOver. Sunday, depending on the day of the month, you have a WWE pay-per-view. You have 6 days of
any other pay-per-view. There's lots of other pay-per-views as well.
Right. But, you have so much. You have so much content. Then you have the WWE Network. You have NJPW's version of the network. You have so much content at your disposal. Why complain about one company doing better than the other? Let them both thrive, because then, you know what? We get to be selfish. We get spoiled again, and it's the great old days of professional wrestling all over again. Not this, bullshit of like, oh, well, one company has to do better than the other because, that's just the way it works. No. If both companies are around, like you said, there's competition. Competition brings the best out of everybody. And that means that it's more enjoyable wrestling. So instead of us sitting here bitching and moaning about wrestling, about WWE and how they don't expand, they don't expand the horizons as in terms of storytelling and all this other stuff, they'll finally do it. And AEW will do it. And then AEW will look at it and say, well, you know what? Let's try to outdo this. It's friendly competition. And who reaps the benefits? We do. We get it. So, like, it's stupid. It's just a bunch of marks, not enough Tommy Wiseau's.
And that speech right there should have just, like, created world peace.
right?
Oh god, that was great. Dom, you had a little other discussion to go off of, I believe.
It's just a small like thought that I was like thinking of,
Well, lay it
like
on us.
a small conversation we can have. You know, like now, like there's so many. Like if you look at the movies right now, what are you seeing? Remakes, reboots. All that's you're not seeing any original content, like in movies or TV or anything like that. So it had me thinking, you know, if not just WWE, but if wrestling were to start rebooting storylines, what storylines would you want to see rebooted? I mean, they've been doing a little here and there. They do a little bit like that Roman Reigns storylines where he was getting attacked and potentially murdered every week. That was basically a reboot of what happened with his cousin The Rock. So, I mean,
because Rikishi did it for him.
Exactly. he would have did it for Roman too. I'm sorry. But.
That would have been a perfect way to introduce the Uso brothers again. We did it for Roman.
Yeah, that one's actually kind of tricky. Like, I almost kind of want to say I really would like to see kind of the Eddie Guerrero storyline reboot with him winning the WWE title from Lesnar. But the problem with that is it felt like it's been kind of done a couple of times already with Seth Rollins, but just I don't know, it just didn't have the same feel to it compared to when Eddie did, because it was like Eddie, you know, it just didn't like really have like that same like kind of build up. It just really felt like Brock was just going to go in there and just dismantle him. Oh. But Eddie actually like put on like a pretty good fight. Like he actually had he actually went up pretty he actually like took it to Brock quite a few times. Seth, like, you know, he was just getting F5'd everywhere and then just smacking the balls and then like 5 curb stomps and then that was it. But Eddie, like, you saw like some crazy stuff in that match. Like he put it like into a Texas 4 clover leaf. He gave him like the 3 amigos. He was doing like a lot of different moves compared to Seth where it was like 2 moves.
Well, also you got to remember, it's also the narrative of the angle.
And that too.
Eddie had demons of like addiction, and you know, at the time there wasn't really a lot of Latino wrestlers that were winning championships in WWE, and you know, you had, you know, Brock Lesnar, who's this beast, who essentially would have been John Cena. And you have the underdog, Eddie Guerrero, who's smaller. He has afflictions. He's had, you know, it was an underdog story. And honestly, the closest that we got to that was, I would say, is probably Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Because he was the underdog. He, you know, he was held down, you know, by his issues. And his issues weren't, you know, Eddie's issues, but it was the company he works for. That was his issue. And they worked that narrative really well. So with Seth Rollins, you really can't do an angle like Eddie Guerrero, you know?
Exactly. That's true. But, yeah, so, like, you know, it was definitely the narrative that just wasn't there. And also just, I would say, the quality of, like, when Seth beat Brock, it just wasn't really the same feeling in a sense. I would say that possibly just seeing, like, a more similar storyline to that come back would be pretty cool. I'd also like to say that I would also like to see maybe like very early, like kind of John Cena when he first won the WWE Championship from JBL, because it was kind of another narrative here was, you know, like the working man, the guy that was kind of, you know, like seen as like a thug, or, you know, like a guy that just was seen as, you know, like an underling in a sense, going up against some guy that's, you know, like wealthy, stock market, big business guy that basically had everything. And, you know, pretty much just like overcoming, you know, just showing him that, you know, he can, you know, take it to him and overcome him. And then, you know, like they went at it like, you know, 2 times, at once at WrestleMania, and then again they had like a last man standing match, I believe, where, you know, that one actually got pretty bloody too between Cena and JBL. I would like to see maybe some sort of match with that. You know, and, you know, narratives really just play a big part in a lot of these storylines, and it's just, I feel like WWE has tried to replicate some of these too. It's just that it doesn't have the same feel at all. And I think that if there are going to be some reboots in regards to like some of these ideas that we have, they really have to try to hit home with that same feel.
Well, one reboot they can do. I'm not an SJW or anything, but have a woman win a man's division title, like China won the IC title. Have Becky Lynch win the WWE Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down with that too, or Nia Jax, or someone.
No, fuck that. No, I'm not Jax.
Well, I mean, she's gonna hurt everybody.
No, Becky Lynch. Like, give me Becky Lynch, even a Sasha Banks. Not Charlotte, because we already know Charlotte's gonna win like 20 million titles.
Or give it to Asuka or Kairi Sane. I mean, set
exactly.
up for
Like,
the weeaboos,
Right. Well, give it to somebody. Give it to a woman. That the fans are behind. That that can carry your title well. Because how many they're talking about progression all this damn time. Oh, women's evolution. Look where that. I didn't see another evolution.
I don't see another evolution. I was actually going to say, where's evolution, guys?
They forgot all about it.
Yeah,
Crown
so
Jewel's
how
still
about you? Unfortunately, but in what was it in the beautiful progressive land of Saudi Arabia? But
so progressive.
They want to be progressive.
So stunning.
Have a woman. Oh yeah, so progressive too. Don't forget that. So progressive. But have a woman. Specifically, Becky Lynch. I really think Becky Lynch could really pull this off.
Right now, I think so too. Yeah.
Have her win it. You talk about progression. You talk about women's evolution, women's revolution. Here you are. Literally, it's sitting in your hands, and you can easily milk this for months to a year on end. But are they gonna pull the trigger? Are they even gonna think of it? No. Nah, they'll just worry about, Natalia versus, I don't know, Lacey Evans for the 6,000th time. Or, Braun Strowman, being tag team champions with instead of a 10-year-old, now an 11-year-old.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't think
outside the box, and, you've seen, and, like, here's, like, another thing, too, is, also like with the progression and everything like that too. But I like to kind of see it also, just like, say like a mixed tag team, like a guy and a woman winning like the tag team titles or something like that. Like when Joey Ryan won it with, I forget her name. I think Kylie Ray or somebody, but like, yeah, there was like actually like a guy and a girl that actually won a the tag team titles together. That could also be a potentially like, way to kind of like ease into that. But no, I mean, like, I definitely think that just thinking outside the box is something that they should really do. And, we've actually seen, quite a few, like actually like around the time, like when we started this podcast, it was a big thing with the women's evolution. And it's funny though, because like a year later, where is it right now? And on top of that, like there was also a big thing about like intergender wrestling, and it's like a big debate. And now it's like, where is that now? So it's just like in 1 year's time, it just kind of like fell from the wayside almost. And it's probably going to start up again when they need the money. But it's going to we'll probably see it come back. But it's just funny like how quickly people just forget.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and they've had like. If you look back in the past, it's not anything new to them. They've done it before. They've been no stranger to having intergender contests and intergender things like that. It's just, like eventually they started to shy away from it, and now they're just not making any progress into going back to it. Mm-hmm. And like you see it working in so many other places as well. Like look at Tessa Blanchard right now. She's making a killing in her intergender matches. Like on the indie scene and around what she's doing. So it's not something that couldn't work if they were to try it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, give it a shot. That's all that really matters is give it a try and see, how it receives, but like there's no problems with it. You've already had like a bunch of failing ideas, so try something different.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the reboot of a storyline that I would want to see though, and they're never gonna actually do this, but it would probably be a combination of like the Nexus and the Invasion storylines. Like you have look at WWE's roster right now. You have how many people there from other companies and other promotions? If you just have them like group up together and just start taking out like all of the WWE originals, like the people that have been with the company and never like left, like that would be a really interesting storyline in my opinion. To like have AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and like the Club and all those people group up and just start going after all of the people that don't know anything else besides WWE. Like, I think it could be a really interesting storyline. They can get a lot of like. I miss when the Nexus storyline happened. Like I wasn't really watching at that point, so I missed a lot of it. But I kind of understand the whole general idea of it, and I think this would be a good way to bring that back. And they did royally screw that up, the ending of that. So, with John Cena just taking out 20 people on his own.
Super Cena.
Oh yeah, because that's what John Cena does. He just goes through rosters.
But I think given
punch,
if they do it properly, it could be done very well. I think, and that's something that I think would play out like in great storylines, great matches. We would see a lot of like interesting team ups and like stuff we wouldn't have seen before.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think so. Moses, what about you?
As in terms of storylines?
Yeah, like a reboot.
Well, that's kind of let me think. A reboot that I would like. I mean, like I said, like I really want them to push like a woman winning the men's major title. Even though it's not necessarily a reboot.
China won the IC.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But like, it's not a reboot, but it's also it's a reboot, but it's not a reboot in the sense of like no woman's ever won, like the crown jewel of WWE. It's always been IC or hardcore or 24/7. But one reboot I wouldn't mind seeing is aside from the invasion angle that Dom mentioned, would be well, you can't do brother versus brother because I've seen that a few times. I guess I would like to see Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels type of match again, where it was like the up and comer, well, not the up and comer, but like the pass, not essentially a passing of the torch, but like one guy idolizing, his, idolizing his favorite wrestler and, slowly acknowledging that he's better than him, or, him thinking he's better than him. And, that wrestler is on the brink of like, he's towards the end of his run and, jealousy ensues and they have a battle. Like you could do. Well, I guess they're doing it now with Ricochet and AJ Styles, so I really can't say that. But
you can give us Matt Riddle versus Goldberg.
Nah.
Oh jeez.
Nah, I don't want to watch that match. Just bro.
Just let me, bro. Just let me win,
Who's
bro.
next? Bruh. You gonna jackhammer me, bruh?
Okay, bro, so just spear me. Spear me in two.
There's really nothing. I guess I'd like to see an Evolution-esque type of stable win all the titles and slowly crumble and like implode against each other. I'd like to see that. Where like Evolution, they won every single title on Raw. And Randy Orton was essentially the start of Evolution breaking up, because he wanted to face Triple H for the title. Triple H got jealous, and Triple H was trying to keep him down. And then Batista was like, "Yeah, I'm all for it, rah, Batista, I'm a monster, rah." Wins the Royal Rumble, and then Triple H is like, "Hey, well, how about this? How about you go to SmackDown, and we could take over the WWE, and come after my title." And then Batista's like, "Nah, bro, you good. I want your title." And then Batista's gone. Then you have Ric Flair and Triple H, and then Shawn Michaels is like, "Hey, look, Triple H is using you. He's using you because you're Ric Flair." And Ric Flair's like, "Nah, I'm the wheeling, dealing, son of a gun, kiss stealing, woo, crispy, woo, tangy, woo, type of guy." And then he realizes that Triple H is actually using him, and Evolution is no more. Nowadays we see groups formed, and they win a title, and then they lose the title, and then they're on main event. It's not like, all right, it's a slow dissolve, because Evolution was around for a year. I'd like to see that with the New Day, right? Because we know that they're not going to last forever. I know. I could hear the grunts of 1,000 marks right now, and I could smell them. So
what are you talking about? Days forever. Power of positivity.
Yeah, if you use the power of positivity, you wouldn't be thinking that, nerd. Anyway, I could see them doing that because, Kofi's gonna want to retire one day, and I can see Xavier as an excellent heel, as in terms of Mike. Actually, I could actually see them both as a great heel, but I kind of want to see Big E as a heel.
Everybody's been kind of saying that Big E would be the better heel of the group, and that they were actually considering giving him a singles push for some time.
Well, actually. I think from a psychology standpoint, I think Big E would be the better of the two. But from and Big E's got great promo skills. He's funny, he's great. Look at him on Twitter. Dude got me crying because of all the laughing he's got me doing. I think he was trying to hook up with Becky Lynch's mom or something like that for the longest time. It's great. But from a promo perspective, I think Xavier would be really good. I think he can, and look when they were originally heels, who was on the mic? It was mainly Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see some type of, Kofi retire, Kofi wins the title again, but then they say, okay, lose, you retire, right? You build it up again. You can build this up for God knows how long. Have Kofi win, and what they did with Ric Flair. I guess this is where the reboot would be too. With Ric Flair, it was okay, you have, Vince McMahon told Ric Flair, you have to win every single match, and if you lose one match, you're done. You retire. So I forgot when they started that angle, but it went all the way up to WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair. And that was such an emotional match, and honestly, if you didn't tear up or thought about tearing up, you probably kicked dogs in your spare time. Because that was such a heart tugging moment, and they could do something with that with Kofi, where Kofi's constantly battling, and he wins the title, and now Vince comes up and says, "Whoa, Kofi, this is some good shit right here. You have to win every match, and if you don't, you're fired." Right? So you book it like that, and then Kofi's constantly winning, in different scenarios, and then WrestleMania, have him go up against somebody that's a heel, and have them win, and then boom, WrestleMania, Kofi retires. There's and it could even be not because of Xavier or Big E, but it could be like something they did that caused the momentum of the match to turn in favor of the heel. You know what I mean? Like, they could have done something where, like, Kofi's controlling the match, and he's let's say against, I don't know, Baron Corbin, right? He's controlling the match. Corbin looks like he's about to lose, and then somebody comes out to the ring and kind of grabs the attention of, like, Kofi, or I mean, not Kofi, of let's say Xavier, and they try, they punch Xavier, run into the ring, right, and the ref doesn't see the guy. I don't know, because zebras are blind nowadays, but the ref doesn't see the ref doesn't see the wrestler go into the ring. They go into the ring, quickly get out. Xavier goes into the ring. Ref turns around, sees them. So Xavier's trying to explain to, like, whoever, like, oh yeah, he's over there. Like, look behind you, ref. Look behind you. And then Baron Corbin gets the title. Boom, plants the title right on Kofi's face. Throws the title away, and then someone that person attacks Xavier. So a brawl ensues. Ref could care less about these two guys because they're not in the match. So he quickly turns around. 1, 2, 3, match done. Right? Baron Corbin is your new WWE champion. And, the next night on Raw, Big E's like, yo, the fuck, man? Like, you're the reason why Kofi had to retire. And then, boom, there you go. Now the New Day is done. You sow the seeds between the two of them. This goes on for a bit, and they become, best friends turn into bitter enemies, right? So you can have them do, like, that whole Shawn Michaels and Triple H feud, where they're feuding, but they were best friends, and the whole premise is, Xavier cost Kofi the match. And that's how Big E becomes a heel.
I could see that.
But WWE doesn't want to hire me, so whatever.
Yep, that's a big mistake right there. Very well thought out. I like that, and you did that like in what now? 5 minutes?
Yeah, I did it on the fly.
That's already a lot better than any of the booking that they currently have.
Well, honestly, me sitting on the toilet for 25 minutes is probably a better booking than half the stuff they've been booking. So,
That.
I mean, that's doesn't take much to book anything better than them. You can have a monkey on the typewriter.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Well, they already do.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of That's Not the Finish, and we will catch you next time.